Something very interesting happened recently. Before I carry on, let's talk about the context that led to that experience. I was in an interview with a very big YouTuber, and 20 minutes in, I noticed something very interesting. Not something, someone. My eye caught his cameraman. I know this person from somewhere. And with my intellectual powers, I tried to narrow down this face. I remember I used to attend lessons with this individual. I had to pause the conversation, walk up to him, give him a shout out, and show massive love. But on my way home, it got me thinking. I and this guy had the same education, we had the same level of experience, we almost had similar background. Why am I here and why is he there? What actually distinguishes successful people from otherwise? What's the difference between a rich person and a poor person? Because from what I've seen, from that experience, it has nothing to do with genetics. It has nothing to do with only your background. It has nothing to do with how you look or how you smell. All of these are just components that enhances the ultimate truth I'm about to share. I thought about it for a while and I came to the conclusion how you invest time. How you invest your time determines the ultimate quality of your life. That's why it's called lifetime. How a man spent his life is directly tied to your time. Majority of you who follow this platform from the infancy of the channel. Well, you said thought leads to the ultimate quality of your life. Are you contradicting yourself? Well, my friend, I'm happy that you're actually keeping up and you're putting into practice every single thing you learn here. However, thoughts leads to action. Action leads to result. The result determines the quality of your life. But what generates thoughts? How do you think? Exactly. Your thoughts is tied to your time. How you spend time. In fact, let me not say spend because spend is equivalent to waste. How you invest time determines the quality of thoughts you generate. If you invest your time in a book, what thread of thoughts do you experience throughout the day? It's possible for me to do this. I need to go to the gym. I need to do XYZ. So it's action oriented thoughts you generate. Conversely, if you spend hours of your time doom scrolling, consuming mindless TikTok videos of half naked girls, what kinds of thoughts are you running on? Hedonism, pleasure, sending out DMs you're not supposed to, and eventually it lands you on a website you regret visiting 2 hours later. So thoughts determine your life, but today we are taking it a step backward. We are pivoting back to understand what generates thoughts, how you invest your time, how you choose to invest your time. While that young man was whiling away, attending parties, drinking booze, and I'm not trying to shit on cameraman or saying it's a debilitating job relative to what I've achieved. It is. And I'm not trying to be biased. This is how life works. Unfortunately, we live in a world where pointing out the truth somehow makes you a bad person. Pointing out the truth somehow makes you evil. Pointing out the truth, you're vilified by society and labeled as insensitive. That's why we have people like Shaq canceling out his deal with Reebok and making cheaper sneakers with a deal using Walmart to make cheaper sneakers under $20 because of a single comment. A woman complaining that, oh, your shoes are too expensive and people can't afford them. You should try and reduce the price. My friend, all you're trying to do is to solicit empathy from the public, is to solicit publicity for your brand. Unfortunately, that's how America has been designed to bully rich people into conforming into the standards of their counterparts. We live in a world where if you're fat and lazy, you're shielded. That it's okay, it's not your fault, and you haul at the haters the logic of Socrates or how your what do they call this? Trying to recall. I lost my wording. It's very unusual. But something that has to do with your genes and you lose fat or your body retains fat at a high rate and you convince yourself it's not your fault. It's very unfortunate that instead of sitting down and telling the lady at the comment section, my friend, if you like my sneakers, then get the fuck out, bust your butt and work hard, climb to the higher echelons of society and you'll be able to afford one. Why the fuck would I cancel my deal with Reebok in order to assuage the emotions of some peasant lady? No. If you want those sneakers, work as hard as possible and buy one. In fact, that's how America is structured. America doesn't prevent the winners from winning. It also doesn't prevent the losers from losing. And the drastic step Shaq undertook validates my point. Instead of sitting down as a logical businessman and going, I'm going to make billions of dollars from retaining the original price, cutting down the costs and cancelling my deal only gets me publicity. So as a logical businessman, this lady should go and work. If you want to afford my sneakers, go and work. A classless society doesn't exist. The Bible says it. The rich will always rule over the poor. In fact, there's a very interesting scripture I read some time ago, and it bothered me deep down in my soul. While they were in the wilderness, the children of Israel, I think, those guys who were rescued from Egypt, it was time for offering. And God said something very remarkable. He said, let the rich not give a penny more, and let the poor not give a penny more. Everybody should give X amount. And why most people would read that scripture and pass, yeah, whatever. No, even in the wilderness, there was a hierarchy. Even in the wilderness, where trade was as little as possible and the wealth is just circulating within that population, there's really no external trade going on. There was still a hierarchical stratification. There was still social hierarchy. The rich, the poor, even the God of the universe acknowledged it. There's no such thing as a classless society. So let me stop deviating and pivot back to the original point. How you invest your time truly matters. If you're trying to change the kind of actions, first you start from your thoughts because it's your thoughts that leads to those actions. It's how you think and how you perceive things that leads to action. But what generates thoughts is how you invest your time. How you invest your time, not how you spend your time. If you spend time listening to music, watching lifestyle, all it's going to get you is fucking depressed and a reaffirmation I'm never going to have this kind of lifestyle. The closest thing I can do or the closest I get to this lifestyle is through this content. My friend, the same Lord is rich unto all. Diligent hands shall be made fat. Work as hard as possible, and it's possible for you to attain those results. But what majority of people would do, they start the journey, they give up because it's hard. But unfortunately, this journey was designed to break people. This journey was designed to weed out the weak. Not everybody can be rich. I have just stated with my 3 to 4 minutes rant of how it's impossible for a classless society to exist. So everybody cannot be rich. It creates another kind of inflation because we as humans gravitate towards structure and hierarchy. If your cleaner started putting on Louis Vuitton, the brand would proactively create another step further meant for the rich. So if the poor people access that rich package, they just keep going up and up and up, and inflation is off the roof till all the poor people spend their money giving it back to the rich. There's this famous saying that if all the wealth of the nation was to be divided equally, in a few years, it returns back to the hands of the original owners. And I completely agree. We see this evidently in 2020 during COVID. Thousands of dollars were handed out in stimulus check. How many of you still have yours? Exactly. How did you spend it? Well, I needed to get groceries. Who who owns the largest grocery store? Walmart. Who owns Walmart? The rich people. While some of you nerds, dipshits, whose bills were already taken care of, perhaps you're in the middle class range. How did you spend your stimulus check? You bought Gucci, you bought Louis Vuitton. Who the fuck are you enriching? Me, I have shares there. You gave it to Amazon. That's why Bezos is fucking balling with your money, tearing down bridges so his yacht can pass. Very unfortunate. But how you invest your time truly matters. Let me share a story. It's a story of two classmates. At the end of graduation, one has read 600 books and he was worth $200,000 an hour, while the other guy worked in a fast food and he was worth $7.50 an hour. With that kind of fast food lifestyle, he has no budget for food. You have to taste what you cook. Even when he's not on duty, he comes there, look around to check up on them, which is another way of saying, feed me, I'm hungry. And when they met, the storyteller shares their results were continents apart. What is the difference? How they choose to invest their time. Now, majority of you have this flawed idea that I somehow structured this content. I wrote it down somewhere, or there's some teleprompt in my surrounding. It's impossible for someone to be as articulate, concise, intellectual with this point. Yes, every good thing comes from God. Man can receive nothing except and unless it's received from above. But it's possible. I didn't structure this content. All I wrote down was the objective of this content, the introduction, and that's all. And this intellect did not come by prayer alone. To sit down and falsely believe that God would impact upon you wisdom. Of course, He can impact upon wisdom, but wisdom finds expression through knowledge. If I have the wisdom, but not the knowledge to communicate this point through diverse analogies, debase the points, approaches from a philosophical, biological, and evolutionary standpoint, it wouldn't make sense to you. The only thing I would do without wisdom is to achieve, but I can't reproduce my result. There's nothing to say. I, Daniel, by books, understood. Daniel, one of the most competent politicians we had. He was so competent and efficient in his work that the only way they could get him, stop praying. Please understand that you are so competent that the only way they could get you is stop you from praying. What a destiny. Michael Faraday had little to no education. He taught himself, and at the end of his life, he became the envy of his professor, a lab attendant. Benjamin Franklin taught himself how to read and write. At the end of his life, a diplomat and everything. Today there's Benjamin Franklin Day. What a destiny. What a life. Ask yourself this question. How are you investing your time? If you were to reap the returns of your investment, is this something you would reap in joy or in tears? As always, my friend, pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you when? Next one.